A decades-old territorial dispute between Armenia and Azerbaijan has flared up again as hostilities resume on the Nagorno-Karabakh border. Violence erupted Sunday morning, and both countries have now declared martial law. Saskia Taylor is following the story for RT. She joins me in the studio. Good morning, Saskia. Bring us the latest then. What is happening in the Nagorno-Karabakh region?
Well, this is a conflict that has flared up and gone through periods of lull for over 3 decades now. But within the last 24 hours, we have seen the most serious escalation in recent years. We're hearing unconfirmed reports that 31 people, including civilians, have been killed in the Nagorno-Karabakh region. That happened on Sunday, but the military activity continued through the night and is still ongoing in Monday. How we got to this stage is not entirely clear because there are such conflicting versions. Both Armenia and Azerbaijan accuse each other of initiating these deadly clashes, which violate a 1994 truce. Both alleged to have footage supporting their respective stances, neither of which can be independently verified. Now, the leaders of the two arch-enemy, really, countries have both spoken out passionately, indeed quite aggressively, showing no signs of backing down.
The armed forces of Armenia have shelled our settlements, as well as our military positions, from several directions. At present, the Azerbaijani army is firing at the enemy's military positions. Most of their equipment has been destroyed. Armenia is doing everything possible to disrupt the negotiation process, and I can say that they have succeeded.
Ilham Aliyev's dictatorial regime has resumed hostilities. It is a war imposed on the Armenian people. It is a war against our independence, freedom and dignity. We were prepared for the possibility of war because we realized that the Armenophobia, enmity and hatred with which the Azerbaijani dictatorship fed its people for many decades could not lead to any result other than war.
Another alarming sign that tensions are only worsening is the introduction of martial law in both countries and curfews in certain cities in Azerbaijan. Armenia has also mobilized fully militarily, calling on its conscripts to step up and serve.
And this latest hostilities reignited what was a long-standing conflict already. Tell us more about the background to this.
Well, this is a territorial dispute that has been going on really since the final days of the Soviet Union. So Nagorno-Karabakh is a small mountainous area in the Caucasus, and really it's lodged between Armenia and Azerbaijan, but it has a predominantly ethnically Armenian population, and they decided to secede back in the 90s, but internationally it is still technically registered as part of Azerbaijan. Well, let's take a look back at its troubled history. So, as is often the case with disputes along religious or ethnic lines, we can see the region has been scarred by really bloody clashes. And that war back in the 90s actually took 30,000 lives and left 1 million people displaced. Now, the Azerbaijani president says he is confident that this enclave will be fully returned to Azerbaijan. But the Armenian prime minister says, well, actually, I'm now ready to consider the region's independence. So really differing perceptions on how the future of Nagorno-Karabakh will look.
And as we just read on the information we were showing on screen there, other countries were involved in brokering a peace when there were hostilities in the past. What's the international reaction been on this occasion?
Well, over the years, there have been numerous attempts to stabilize the situation. To that end, Russia, France, and the US all co-chaired the Minsk group. And in fact, the Armenian Prime Minister only recently asked for the group to reboot its efforts with a renewed passion, saying that they are on the brink of a really large-scale war. There has been a unanimous call for peace from Russia, France, the US. Iran, which borders both countries, has offered to broker the deal. The UN and NATO have also spoke out expressing concern. And Turkey has thrown its support behind Azerbaijan. You know, the true sign between these two countries has always been pretty shaky. So understandably, this warlike rhetoric, the ongoing military activity, it is alarming. And with many hoping that we won't see a return to those bloodiest days.
OK, many thanks for the update. Saskia Taylor in the studio with me. We've also spoken to journalists from the Sputnik news agency working in Armenia and in Azerbaijan, and here's what they told us about the situation there.
Our Prime Minister announced that Armenia and Yerevan is going to do anything to keep people of Karabakh safe. As we know, there is a martial law in Armenia, so general mobilization is announced right now. Most of the people most of the men who are living in Armenia are willing to go to the Karabakh to stay for their homeland. The situation is rather frightening for people who live in Armenia and Karabakh. There has never been such an escalation of the conflict.
The official position of the Azerbaijani government is that the Armenian armed forces launched large-scale provocations. They fired extensively at the positions of the Azerbaijani army along the entire front line and residential settlements at the frontal zone. They breached the ceasefire once again in several directions, and the Azerbaijani army was forced to counterattack. We have injured civilians. Civil infrastructure has been seriously damaged. The Ministry of Defense has announced that the Azerbaijani army is continuing its successful campaign.
Russia analyst Martin McCauley says that it's down to Armenia and Azerbaijan alone to resolve their differences.
It's up to the General Staff, the government in Azerbaijan and in Armenia to decide. And when you talk to them, they're maximalists. The Armenians say, that's our territory and we want it back. And the Azeris say, no, it's our territory, we want to control it. So therefore, it's a situation which, unfortunately, has now given rise to more conflict, and they want to have their view, and they want to ensure that they win. From their point of view, from both states' point of view, it's a disaster, because they're wasting resources which are vitally needed for the development of their countries and their economies. And you can say this to them, but they say we must defend.